Let's start the Spring interview question part 3. The first question is, what is Spring AOP? The Spring AOP is a model of Spring framework that allows developers to implement cross-cutting concern in their applications. Cross-cutting concern are features or functionality that span multiple models or components of an application, such as logging, security, and the transaction management. So you need to know is cross-cutting concern. Now let's talk about the Spring Security. The Spring Security is a framework that provides authentication, authorization, and the protection against common attacks such as the CSRF or the SS or the SQL injection. So the SQL injections, the hacker can easily to get in your database to store your data and modify your data. So it's an issue. So you can just you have basic idea for this one enough. I think it's enough. Now what is JWT used with the Spring Security? And then here just how many class we need to create. Not only this class, I just pick some important class. Let's talk about it. So here we need to create a Spring Security configuration class. That is then web security configure adapter. Actually, this class already deprecated nowadays, but you can, if you are have experience before, you may use this one. The second, we also need to create the JW token class that used to create and validate a token. So we need to check if the token is valid and make sure the token is not expired. And then third step, we need to create JWT user details class and then implement user detail service. So this one is interface we need to implement, and then which can fetch the user information from database. Now, first step, create a JWT request filter class is then once per request filter to check if the request has a valid JWT token. So we will receive a request including the token, so we need to check if the token is valid or not. Now here, now what annotation do we use to quickly switch between different environments to load different configuration? So in the Spring, you can use the profile annotation to quickly switch between different environments and load different configuration. So we while developing the application, we deal with the multiple environments such as dev, QA, prop, and each environment require different configuration. And then we also have the command line. Command line can switch in a different environment, and then we also can use this instruction spring.profile.activity equal to particular environment. It's also a lot of way can switch in a different environment. And then here we have what's different between request mapping and get mapping. So request mapping annotation is used for mapping a particular HTTP request method to a specific class or method. So which means the request mapping can use on class level and the method level. And the get mapping annotation for mapping HTTP GET request onto a specific handler method. So also request mapping can use other different method like get method, post method, delete method, all the name. Now get mapping should only handle get request. Now what's actuator? Actuator is additional feature of Spring that help you to monitor and manage your application when you push to production. So this question is very, very important if you are using a Spring Boot. Now, what is use of actuator? So there's so many it can use to make an application production ready. Also, we can check the mapping and it helps check or logger info being, it provides so many the link the website we can use. Not website, it's just URL we can use to check our the status of our application. So it's very useful. And then how to pass custom information to info endpoint. Then here's three ways we can use the application properties. So we can configure in the YAML file, something. And also we can use the info contributor interface. And the survey, aiding the build information using the Spring Maven plugin. So you can just memorize this, or in the future I have time I can go to implement this one. Now what's Pojo class? The Pojo class is a Java object that is bound to it's no specific framework. So you can understand it's entity class, or you can understand it this way, is employee class or person class. And the person class contain the person information like your first name, last name, and also contain the constructor, also contain the getter and the setter method, right? So it just entity class. So what is the Spring Bean configuration file? So it's used to create Spring Bean. So actually, in the Spring Bean configuration file is part of Spring. It's part of XML file. So nowadays, I'm not sure if you are using the Spring Boot. So definitely you will not know this one. And now type coupling and the loose coupling. So type coupling refers to situation where two or more components are closely connected and they depend on each other to function properly. Loose coupling, on the other hand, means that the components are less dependent on each other and can operate more independently. So here, before I talk about the Lookup annotation, Lookup annotation and the primary annotation, but I didn't talk about the primary annotation. Lookup annotation is used to override the Spring Bean, and the primarily to give higher preference to bean when there are multiple beans on the same type. So we have two choices here. Now, what is database collection pooling? Database collection pooling. Database collection pooling allows the user the same data collection for several requests. Making a new database collection is costly, right? So therefore, using the database collection pool is recommended. So what is jar file or WAR files? The jar file are used to package multiple files in order to use it as library, plugin, or any kind of application. Now, what file are used only for web applications, including Servlet, JSP files, HTML page, or CS file, also JavaScript files, configuration files, libraries, and other resources. So you just memorize this thing. If you understand this is best. It's best way to, right. Now also we have the Spring Boot Dependency Management, Spring Boot Starter Project, and also have developer tool and command line runner. So Spring Boot Dependency Management is used to manage dependency and the configuration without specifying the version of dependency. The Spring Starter are dependency descriptor that you can include in your application, Starter Web, and the Start Data JPA, and so many other starter we can use. And the developer tool is used to restart the application when we make any changes in our program or to the Java code or property files. So it can quickly help us to automatically restart the application. The command line runner is an interface that is used to run methods. Now, next question is, what is the execution flow of React REST API? So actually we have three layers first one is controller. So I need to let me write it down. Let me draw a picture. You can help you to understand. So the execution of flow of REST API. So we have the customer, right? Is our customer, right? And now we have three layers. One layer, second layer, third layer, and then we have table database. Now 1 second, let me draw this one very quick. So now here is control layer. So control layer which used to receive a request is control layer, and the service layer, and the repository you can repository layer, and here is database. Oh, hold on. So now we know the customer can make a request, right? And then control layer will receive different requests. Maybe the customer want to save his money in our bank, or he want to retrieve his bank, or he want to read his banking account, right? Anything, right? So it's controller will do anything to receive a request, and then logging the request to the service layer, and the service layer to do some calculation, and then service layer will ask the repo. The repo provide many built-in method. So he need to interact with database. So we know database can store our data, right? So or sometimes maybe you want to retrieve the data from database, or you want to delete it, particular data. You can do that. After that, you will receive a return or response, right? And then we return it is a response to the service layer, and the service layer will return response to the control layer, and the control return it back to customer. So this one is the workflow of the REST API. This you need to know. So you can see here the client make an HTTP request. The HTTP request is forwarded to the controller. The controller make the request. It is processed and handled and the corner service logic. The business logic is performed in the service layer. The Spring Boot performs all the logic over the data of the database, which is mapped to the Spring Boot model class through Java Persistent Library JPA. The JSP page is returned as response from the controller. So actually, we also have the entity class, right? Where entity class. So maybe it's in the customer entity class, right? Also, we call this one is Pojo. Now, next question is, so what's different HTTP static code response? So here, 200 is okay, the 201 is create, or 204 is no content, right? The finds a bad request unauthorized. 403 is access forbidden. 44 is resource not found. 500 internal server error. Is the final question in this video. So what are the best practice when designing RESTful service? Or over what are you input you look for to develop a new RESTful API? So here the REST API must be only contain the noun instead of verb, and also the REST API should be using the JSON format for the request and the response. And we need to secure REST API. We also need to secure REST API. We can use DWT token, And then we also have page relation. Page relation can allow the user to design which page to be low, so which can improve the performance. HTTP static code, so which means we have 200, 400, right? Because we need to process the request from customer. We need to know the process is successfully or not, right? If we fail to process the request, we need to return the error. We need to return the bad request. Maybe it's bad request because we couldn't process the request or the asset forbidden, right? Because the customer doesn't have the permission. So we need to let user know. And then we also have the HTTP method. Because we have different method, right? We have get method. Sometimes maybe user want to get a particular data from our database. Maybe he want to delete. Maybe he want to perform the post operation, right? He want to save something, some data, right? Also, finally, we also need to provide an exception for each REST API. Okay, now it's the video. I think I finished everything now. So thank you for watching this video.